Hello, and welcome to a video for discussion 2.1 Material Review Video Journal. Please excuse the length of these videos. I did not edit them for length to fit within the parameters. I apologize in advance. Question one: how can I find a point of connection with someone whose life is so dramatically different than mine? Well, for me, what my general philosophy is, instead of focusing on where we disagree or how we are so different, I tend to want to build on the our strengths, the build on what we have in common instead. So maybe that's us exploring, a favorite cuisine or a favorite sport. Um, Finding that common ground provides a pathway for communication, and that communication could lead to trust, and trust could lead to relationship building, so forth and so on. So, you know, I've explored trying to think outside of the box when it comes to those initial meetings with people, just in general, not necessarily in therapy type sessions, but just in general. So try talking about, like I said, favorite foods, favorite drink, maybe um, you know, obviously something not related to like politics or religion, but maybe even just like going for a walk. Maybe the setting needs to be different, or maybe playing a round of golf together, going for a run, finding that common ground. All these activities allow for common experiences, and those common experiences is what can lead to the conversation. Like I said. It may be something as simple as their name, if they have a unique name, maybe asking if they know what the meaning of it is. You'd be surprised that some names, have great meanings, and people get pride. Like I know I get pride in explaining to people the meaning of my name and how I got my name. So that's that. Through a more casual conversation, we help build connectivity and trust. Through the trust, a relationship can be established, and then more difficult subjects can be tackled later on. We experience a sense of freedom that allows us to be free and authentic. We also begin to understand better how another person perceives things, what their worldview is, based on the more casual conversation that we might be having about our shared experiences, our connections, versus exploring our differences. Um, so, yeah, we begin to see how, not all of our views are wrong. I mean, well, we begin to see now how all of their views are wrong and how all of our views are not right. So, that is a great way to like open it up and to find those points of connection with individuals whose life we may be dramatically different with. I'm just yeah, I'll leave it at that. So anyway, through appreciation of each other and learning to compromise, we can build relationships that we can use going forward rather than going backwards, even though we are dramatically different. Question two: what kind of understanding and knowledge do I need to feel comfortable and competent in working with someone who is psychotic? Very interesting question. I believe it takes a very certain type of person with a very certain skill set to work with someone who is psychotic. Someone who is especially skilled at building therapeutic relationships would be great. Working with someone with delusions isn't easy. I mean, when you don't know what is going to come and when it's going to come, it can be quite difficult. The counselor wouldn't want to ignore these delusions, but two, they don't want to put too much concentration on it, because if they do that, that can make things worse too. So the counselor will need to be especially knowledgeable on what it means to be supportive and emphatic and genuine. Those are three things that they definitely need when working with someone that is turned psychotic. Clients labels as psychotic tend to detect fakeness from a mile away, so you don't want to push them away by being ingenuine and fake. That's not going to work. They might avoid counseling altogether if they perceive that you are being ingenuine. The counselor should provide reassurance to the client while setting appropriate boundaries. That's something else they need to be able to do pretty well. In addition, the counselor needs to be able to fully be aware of the symptoms of the disorder and be capable of providing the appropriate support for the client. There's a lot going on in psychosis. And so, yeah, it's very, very important that we are familiar with the symptoms, because as we know, some things will mimic other things, or some things may be from two different categories. So you have to really know all of those little nuances and specifiers and things like that in order to be able to appropriately work with these individuals. And I think I would also need to be familiar as a future school counseling, professional school counselor. I'm on a school counseling track. I think it's important for me to also have to know how psychosis affects children or students, because there is a different way that it may manifest itself in children, as well as just general developmental issues that children face, and how that can interplay with psychosis is definitely a skill that I would need in order to work with these individuals. All right, question 3. Discuss 3 intervention strategies that you would use to help someone with schizophrenia, and provide a rationale for each strategy. Okay, so treatment for schizophrenia, it may vary based on the individual client's symptoms, obviously, and how long they've had it, or and the current phase they're in the disorder. So, treatment obviously depends. Okay, but most treatments will include some kind of medication and some kind of psychosocial interventions. Here, I would like to focus on the psychosocial interventions, and obviously not the medication part, because our book doesn't really go into that much. But okay, so psychosocial interventions that I would use to help someone with schizophrenia. Obviously, cognitive behavior therapies, that seems like an obvious strategy to me. A lot of the diagnoses in a DSM-5 have a cognitive behavior therapy approach listed for it, or something similar. So to me, that seems obviously. Hopefully, this will help the client build the coping skills necessary to work through each symptom, as such as like their delusions and their hallucinations. I'd also like to throw in some mindfulness techniques with the CBT to help acknowledge and accept the hallucinations. Another strategy I want to try that was not listed in our textbooks is reality therapy. I'm really trying to push the whole reality therapy as a way of life type thing. So I will for certain try to incorporate that into working with individuals with schizophrenia or schizophrenic disorder. I can't remember how to say it now, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, using reality therapy could help in terms of like the internal locus of control, the whole self-esteem, and stress coping mechanism. So, that's my plan with the reality therapy. Lastly, as a professional school counselor, when working with children, I would like to utilize the student's IEP to its fullest as a way to incorporate social and emotional goals, as well as social skills training. I could use mindfulness techniques with the students as well. Okay, so question 4. Years of research have been more successful in ruling out causes of schizophrenia than in establishing etiology. However, it is believed to be largely a neurodevelopmental disorder, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts regarding the interplay of environment and psychosocial stressors in contributing to schizophrenia? So, obviously, I agree that both environment and psychosocial stressors contribute to schizophrenia. I believe that someone who is genetically predisposed to schizophrenia may develop it, or even some other disorder that may be closely related, if the environment is right. It's like I believe that environment and psychosocial stressors alone can't cause schizophrenia, but the biology components must also be present for the disorder to manifest itself. Okay, so it's like the difference between like a hurricane watch and a hurricane warning. With a watch, the ingredients are they're deep down in there, and they're waiting for the conditions to be right, which would make it possible to develop the disorder. And the environment conditions are not there yet though, but they're just waiting. All the ingredients are just there waiting. Um, with the hurricane warning, the genetic ingredients are there and the environmental conditions are right. So we need to look out for it. We will more than likely form the schizophrenic disorder or condition or whatever you want to call it. So you definitely have to be cautious with the warning because the conditions are right, the genetic makeup is right, and it's very likely this can form if things are not uh, controlled, I guess, or addressed early. And that's the end of video 1. And I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Have a great day.